Hi, this is the Physical Therapy Round 2 Advisor Orientation for the Alabama HOSA State Leadership Conference 2018. Just a short overview of the Physical Therapy HOSA competitive event. Round 1 takes place Thursday morning, where the student, of course, takes their test. Physical Therapy Round 2 is held Friday morning with event manager and personnel orientations beginning at 8 a.m. Competitor orientation and the actual event should begin at 8:45 a.m. The judges' orientation will fall in the middle of this around 8:20 a.m. Please see the competitive event schedule for your specific room. Be prepared to run the event. This, of course, is just the skill-only portion of physical therapy. It will require judges. Plan to have 2 judges, but the event can be ran with 1. Of course, the advisors will be managing the event. The event personnel may include advisors with students in the event, but again, we don't have advisors judging the event. Preparations for State Leadership Conference: print and review your event guidelines. The event manager is responsible for coordinating the event. The manager must report to headquarters to get the event binder. The event personnel should plan to meet in the event room for event setup. Personnel should start orienting the judges. This is a sample room setup for a skilled event. The tables with chairs for judges you will have, a table for materials, chairs in the room for advisors, an open area for skill equipment and performance. Equipment will be received when the manager comes to headquarters, or it may be placed in the room prior to the event. We'll address confidentiality. All advisors should complete the online confidentiality agreement prior to State Leadership Conference found at the link on this slide. Please make sure you complete this before coming to State Conference. Hard copies are available in headquarters, but again, we are encouraging everyone to complete the online version of the agreement. Judges do not have to complete this, just the advisors running the event. Confidentiality has to be of utmost importance in order to assure equity in future events. Advisors and students are not allowed to enter or observe an event other than their assigned one at any time for any reason. Advisors will be made aware of the skills and scenarios. This cannot be shared until the event is completely finished. And students must be reminded not to share the information as well. Pictures may not be taken of events, skills, or equipment. Students cannot be allowed to access the event areas outside of their scheduled times. Scenarios and scripts cannot be removed from the secured locations. Do not copy or duplicate them, and be sure to return them to headquarters in the event binder. In regards to orientation for the event manager, mostly that will be completed through this video. Binders should be picked up again at headquarters. A separate binder video has already been sent out by Dana Stringer to address basically the sections of the binder. The manager will receive the following at headquarters: the binder with event directions, top 6 competitor list, scenarios needed to complete the skill portion, equipment, scripts, skill rubrics for judges, event survey forms, and the judges' gifts. Again, keep in mind that it's just 6 students that you are judging in this Physical Therapy Round 2 event. If the assigned event manager for some reason cannot attend or pick up materials, notify Dana Stringer as soon as possible. Another member of the event team will be asked to attend. It's imperative that someone can be present to obtain the event materials and any additional instructions needed to make the physical therapy event a success. Prior to State Leadership Conference, the event manager and personnel, of course, need to be very familiar with the physical therapy guidelines and make plans to follow them precisely. After picking up the event binder, a plan needs to be made of how are we going to orient the judges, get the students in the room, call roll, orient the students, These are all things, once you see this video, you can be thinking of and maybe even email the other event personnel as to your plan. And we hope the video will share some ideas of how to handle this and be prepared ahead of time. Consider where students will wait their turn, in the holding area, or will you give them an appointment time to come back? Make a plan to check the dress code. No guidelines are required for round 2. How are you going to deliver the scenario? How are you going to read the script? If a patient is needed, you will be notified prior to state conference. That way you can plan to bring an extra person with you to serve as the patient. Make sure you make a plan to who is going to time the skills, and also who can help keep judges on schedule. Possible physical therapy skills for round 2 are attached here straight from the guidelines. These are suggestions on how to actually run the event. Make a plan to orient the judges to the rubrics and the time limits of the event. Again, the rubric from the actual guideline will be onto a Scantron form, so just explain that to the judge and that they're, of course, going to bubble in the Scantron. Make sure the judges are familiar with the guidelines. Review the important points to be sure they understand. Review the rubrics and stress consistency. We want them to judge the same way with each student. For example, if a judge plans on giving a half a point when it's only 1 or 0, make sure the other judges know that as well, that is an option if they plan to do that. Each judge will complete their own rubric. They may come back together and discuss rubric scores after all competitors have been scored. They must break any tie. They should not write notes on the Scantron rubric itself. Use a notepad. Remind them that they can't give advice to competitors. Thank you is acceptable, but good job is not. Orient the patient, if applicable, what they are expected to do, and provide the script, but make sure that the patient plans to be consistent with each competitor. Advisors will notify judges if competitors did not follow the guidelines, because the HOSA advisor, of course, should know the guidelines even better than the judges. Other suggestions for running the event: each room will have a table outside the door. Make a plan to check the roster and dress code discreetly at the table as the competitors enter the room. If there is a dress code violation, keep it confidential. Have a second event person discreetly look at the student's dress and make a mutual decision. If unsure, err on the side of the student. If there is a violation, document it and the points will be adjusted at headquarters. It is your decision if the dress code is appropriate for the physical therapy event. I do have a section out of the guidelines here that state what the actual dress code is. Competitors shall wear proper business attire or HOSA official uniform or attire appropriate to the occupational area during the orientation, written tests, and skills. A note about dress code documentation: document dress code only if they do not meet the dress code. And Dana did mention this as well in her video on the binder in general. The event manager and personnel, just other suggestions related to how to orient the competitors. After the students have been checked in, you're basically going to send them on into the room. They're standing in the room at this point. Instruct students to the process of the event. Do not give them the scenarios at that time or allow them to know the skills at that time, but just a general flow of how you're going to bring each competitor in. Instruct them about the order or appointment time in which they will compete. Instruct them about the holding area they will use if needed. Remind them that they are not to share the secret scenario or the skills used once they exit, and answer any questions at this time. Send them to holding or instruct them to return at their appointment time. That is totally your decision. Keep this in mind that when you bring the students in to orient them, have the equipment covered up or out of the way so they don't already know what the skill is based on the equipment sitting in the room. Suggestions for running the event: set out equipment and patient if needed, because we've completed our student orientation and we've dismissed them, so now we're ready to get our room actually ready to bring individual students in to compete. Once the competitor arrives for the event, Give them the written scenario or read it to them, but just be consistent with each competitor. One or more skills may be combined. The timekeeper will begin timing the skill when the scenario is presented. Competitors should be stopped at the end of the time allowed for the specific skill. The patient or an event personnel will answer questions using the script. Only provide answers or information if the competitor asks. Judges will score everything that was completed during the time allowed per skill. Make sure you thank the competitor and remind them again not to share any event information with others. Just some additional info. Students will not know the final results until award session. We cannot give individual students suggestions for improvement. Judges can create a list of general suggestions that Dana can share with everyone after state conference. Make this list of suggestions on the event survey. If you want to orient students to the location of things in the room, do this with each competitor. If you make a mistake and provide information before it was asked, do this with each competitor. Consistency makes equitable competitive events. Some possible problems. If a student arrives late, allow them to compete in the time that remains. They are not allowed additional time, or you can plan to go ahead and call the next competitor and move the late student to the end of the line. A competitor does not bring their specified equipment, could be another problem. We do not supply that equipment. They cannot be awarded points for any portion of the skill that requires that equipment. They're also not allowed to simulate that they have the piece of equipment that they should have brought to begin with. Other problems that may occur. The student is unable to perform a portion of the skill with the equipment that HOSA provided. They should verbalize the steps they are unable to perform. Here's an example. Maybe the walker height adjustment button malfunctions. Student verbalizes they would adjust the height as appropriate, just in case something happened with the equipment that was provided by Alabama HOSA. Keep the goal in mind. Our goal is to set an example of high standards and integrity for our students, while being as fair and equitable as possible. These are leadership qualities we hope to instill in our members. Be the example. Conduct the event as you would like others to conduct events for your students. Grievances. If a student has a grievance, listen carefully. If you can fix the issue, fix it if it can be fair. If you're unsure how to fix it, or even if it needs to be fixed, refer to their advisor. Their advisor can bring the grievance to headquarters in a professional and confidential manner. Keep in mind that everyone is doing their best and that we are all human. When the event is complete, make sure you thank the judges. Provide them with a thank you card that will be included in the event binder, and a gift that was actually provided to the event manager when they picked up the binder at headquarters. Gather all equipment, signs, and straighten the room. Complete the event survey. Refer to the event binder for instructions on what items should be placed in the front binder of the pocket. There is a check sheet there. The event manager or personnel should return the binder and all other supplies to headquarters. The check-in sheet. Make sure all items on the check-in sheet are accounted for. Again, this sheet will be in the front pocket of the binder. Event personnel and managers should take time as a group to complete feedback portions of check-in sheet and evaluations. Just want to take a moment to thank you. We could not make Alabama HOSA State Leadership Conference possible without you running these events. Thank you, and we look forward to an awesome conference.